There is a particular kind of suffering that is almost invisible because it looks, from the outside, like simply not having gotten around to things. But from the inside, it is something far more acute, the experience of knowing exactly what you need to do and finding yourself simply unable to do it. Not unable in any physical sense. Fully capable, in principle. But frozen between the idea and the action, trapped in a loop of analysis, doubt, and increasingly desperate self-recrimination. William James knew this experience intimately. In his late 20s, he suffered a breakdown so severe that he could barely act at all. He was paralyzed, not by ignorance but by understanding. He saw the implications of every decision too clearly. Every path forward was shadowed by the possible paths not taken. Every action raised questions about its ultimate justification that he could not silence. He was, in his own assessment, a man who thought too much and acted too little. His recovery from this paralysis, which was slow, painful, and hard one, gave him an intimate understanding of the psychology of will that no amount of healthy functioning could have provided. And what he discovered forms one of the most practically important chapters in the principles of psychology, his analysis of the will to act. James began with an observation that seems simple but carries enormous implications. The fundamental challenge of will is not knowing what to do. It is doing what you know. This is obvious to anyone who has ever failed at a diet, a fitness resolution, or a work project. The knowledge of what to do is not the bottleneck. The translation of knowledge into action is. So what is actually happening in the gap between knowing and doing? James's analysis was precise. He identified several types of paralysis. The first he called the irresolution of equal options. When two alternatives seem approximately equal in desirability, the will cannot find a decisive reason to prefer one over the other, and remains in suspension. This is the torment of the perfectionist who cannot send the email because it might be better with one more revision, and might be better still with another. The second type is what James called the conflict of reasons, when every argument for action is matched by a counterargument, and deliberation spirals into an infinite regress of considerations that never terminates in decision. The person who has been thinking about changing careers for 3 years while systematically generating reasons why each possible path is inadequate. The analysis is real. The paralysis it produces is also real. James's crucial insight was this: deliberation, by its nature, can never resolve these conflicts. You cannot think your way out of them. More analysis does not produce more clarity. It produces more complexity, more things to consider, more risks to weigh, more possible regrets to anticipate. The mind that is stuck in deliberation is often genuinely trying to solve an unsolvable problem, finding perfect certainty before acting in a domain where certainty is not available. The resolution, James argued, must come from a different source entirely. It must come from what he called the fiat of will, the direct act of decision that does not wait for all uncertainties to be resolved. Not the product of deliberation, but the termination of it. A genuinely voluntary act that breaks the deliberative loop not by answering its questions but by stepping outside it. This is one of the most counterintuitive but important insights in all of psychology. The way out of paralysis is not more thinking. It is action, however imperfect, however uncertain. James was not advocating for recklessness. He was not saying ignore the relevant considerations and act blindly. He was saying, deliberate until you have gathered sufficient information, and then decide, understanding that sufficiency is a practical standard, not a theoretical one. You will never have all the information. You will never eliminate all uncertainty. The willingness to act despite residual uncertainty is not irrationality. It is the practical precondition of any functioning life. James also identified something he called the motor side of action, the observation that every genuine idea of an action tends to produce that action unless inhibited by a competing idea. If you think of moving your arm without any thought of why you should not, your arm moves. The inhibitory process, the thought of reasons not to act, is what must be actively engaged to prevent the automatic conversion of idea to action. This is why paralysis is so exhausting. It requires continuous active inhibition of the impulse to act that is always present whenever the action is genuinely contemplated. For practical purposes, James's prescription was elegantly simple. When you are stuck, act on the body first. Do something, anything, that has the physical form of the action you are avoiding. Sit at the desk. Open the document. Put on the running shoes. The body does not know about your reasons for not acting. It only knows what it is being asked to do. And once the body is in position, the mind often follows. The action itself dissolves the paralysis that all the thinking in the world could not touch. James had to learn this the hard way. His legacy is that you do not have to. Subscribe to The Psychology of William James and explore the full depth of his hard-won wisdom about what it means to live an active, purposeful, fully human life.